Hello, this is Pop Shrooms coming to you from the Mush Lab. Today we're going to be looking at making a cake out of a 1-pound bag of already colonized spawn. This bag we did something real interesting with, kind of an experiment. This bag we took and we put in some blue food dye. Because of the white mycelium and the time that it's been in here soaking, it looks like it's turned green in an interesting way, but it started out blue. What we did here was we had a 1-pound bag. We cut off the top, the chimney portion of the bag. We poured in some water that was already colored blue, and we end up with this, which we clipped closed, and I've let it soak for 4 hours. So at this point now, we're gonna take this and we're gonna make 2 cakes out of it. You're gonna see the trays for the 2 cakes right down here. So our first step, we're gonna go ahead and unclip our bag, drain our water out. Oh my gosh, look at this water. It almost looks like trike water. But we know it's not. It's good, clean water. A lot of people ask, what kind of water did you use, Pops? I used tap water. I didn't need to use any special distilled water or anything like that. It was just a good tap water. So I'm looking inside this bag. I don't know if the camera's going to be able to catch any of it, but it didn't completely dye the mycelium. But what it did do was it took some of the mycelium off of the grain, the outside part of the grain. So it's really interesting looking. And then let's take a look, if we can see in there what the water that came out looks like. It's interesting too. So setting that off to the side, our next technique when we do this, leaving everything inside the bag, we simply take a table knife and we cut this ball right in half. We're going to take each half and put it in a small tray of substrate material. What's the substrate material, Pops? In this case, what we used was 60% cocoa. We used 30% vermiculite and 10% worm casings or worm castings. If you could smell this, it just smells amazing. It's got that beautiful, beautiful mushroom smell that just came out of the bag. So, gosh, it's amazing. So I've got my 2 halves here. Before I do anything and I start touching or getting involved with it, I'm going to go ahead and want to just get my hands clean. I'm using an alcohol spray solution, 70% alcohol, 30% water. Just get my hands clean before I handle too much here. The next thing I want to do, I have my 2 small trays in front of me. I'm going to take my 2 trays and I'm just going to put a small bed of that same substrate material. 60, 30, 10, 60% cocoa, 30% vermiculite, and 10% worm castings. I'm going to go ahead and line my little trays with this. Just a small bed of it like that. And each of those, I want to put a small misting of water. Again, it's just good, clean tap water. It doesn't need to be anything special and distilled. Now I'm going to take the cakes that I've taken and made 2 of, and I'm just going to case them. We call this casing. Sometimes I just refer to it as frosting. I have a cake, and I'm just putting frosting on it. So the terminology typically is it's called casing. Sometimes, like I say, I just like to call it frosting. So I'm gonna take that little guy and just get my frosting on him all the way around pretty nice. Just like so. And I'm gonna place him right in that tray. And I'm gonna get it just built up around the sides with a little bit more on my casing. Now remember that this cake has been hydrating in that soaked bag for about 4, sometimes up to 6 hours. So it's very moist and it's got a lot of moisture and held water inside those grains. It's exactly what it wants. So internally, it's nice and moist. Externally, we've just cased it to basically, if we're being nature, that's earth. We've just put the earth over the top of a mycelium network, and in a short 2 to 3 days, you're gonna start seeing this thing turning white from all of the mycelium and the rhizomorph that's gonna be growing out of this little rock right here. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna rain on this. We're gonna get a little early morning rain on our rock. So that's one of them. I'm gonna build our second one here. Oh, let me finish frosting our little cake. So, the biggest thing that we always want to make sure of is that we're watching out for contaminations and being clean. Most of our procedures, you look around our lab, you look around everything, you want to stay as clean as possible, fighting all your contams. And that's another thing that this casing's doing. It's helping basically protect this little mycelium rock that we've grown in a bag, soaked for 4 hours. And it's going to protect it a little bit. It's going to give it a little bit of nutrients and give it a little bit of growth opportunity. But really, all of the grain and all of the nutrients and all of the proteins that it needs are right inside that rock. And the most exciting thing is going to be is to see this thing to start to fruit out, which we'll see in about 7 days. So there will be a follow-up on this one. Let's go ahead and rain on this cake now. Get ourselves nice and moist. And that would be about it. Get all the way around. I like to see it nice and moist. So we've got our cake like that. I'm gonna take this, move it out of the way. One of the things we like to do is stay pretty clean around here. So we do a quick wipe down, and we're gonna take a couple more minutes and talk about proper care and feeding of this 2 cakes that we've just made. There we go there. There we go there. So now we've got these 2 cakes. At this point right now, we really move them straight into the fruiting process, or the fruiting stage of their growth. They don't really need to go into colonization stages. They've already done that in the bag itself. At this point now, we're basically moving them straight to a fruiting chamber. Our fruiting chambers are going to be at about 72 to 75 degrees. We're going to want humidity up around 90% or above. And we're going to want probably to get some kind of a light source. We'll discuss some of those particulars on fruiting chambers and the right way to set up fruiting chambers in future episodes. But this particular one, what we know now is at this point with these 2 cakes is we're ready to move them over to our fruiting chamber. So I'm going to cover these with a small piece of aluminum foil for the next 24 hours. And then after that, I would put on the plastic dome that belongs to this tray. So one moment, let me grab that aluminum foil. So a little tint of aluminum foil over the top of this tray. I'm going to give it a little bit of mist, say hello, morning rain. Get a little tint over the top of this. And I won't look under here for about another 24 hours. Go put this in our fruiting chamber. In about 24 hours, I'll take this top off, fan this, give it a little fresh air exchange, and then probably put our plastic dome on the top. And in the next 7 days, we'll have fruit growing off of these two little rocks. There will be a follow-up on this where we all get an opportunity to see these. So, for today, thank you for joining me. This is Pop Shrooms at the Mush Lab, signing off.